Hi guys, I'm Abby and this is my channel. And today we're gonna go over some series you can read this summer. Some of these are very long series, some of these are short series, depending on how much you wanna read this summer. But they all are adventurous and have action, just to kind of go with summer. I feel like summer's a great time to read a series, especially if you're in school and you have time off from school and you don't have to do homework or read for classes there. You can start a series, and I wanted to do sort of adventure series to go with summer because a lot of adventures happen in summer. A lot of people go outside and do things, and these series fit with that kind of theme of summer. I have 10 different series to suggest for you today. Some I have read many times, some are very well known, some aren't, and some of them I haven't read yet, including the one I plan on reading this summer, which is the one I'm going to start with. And every book I show up for this series are usually considered the first book in the series, or definitely are the first book in the series. So keep that in mind as I show you the books. So the first series, like I said, is the series that I plan on reading this summer, and it is, the first book is The Queen of the Tearling. I think that's how you say it, and by Erica Johansson. There are 3 books in this series. The first book has a rating a little over 4.0, and of course I haven't read this yet, but I plan to this summer. This series is about a exiled princess trying to regain her throne. There's magic and fighting for thrones, and of course adventure that comes along with all that. I'm excited to read this. I found all 3 books of the series at a store a little while ago, and so I plan on reading them this summer. So the second series I'm going to mention, I've read half of that I can remember. It's a sort of known series. There are movies made off of some of the books. There are 7 books in total. The first one is The Magician's Nephew. These are the Chronicle of Narnia series. The most famous one is probably the second one, which is The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. There are movies made after The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I think this 3rd and 4th book, I can't remember exactly, but these are this is definitely a series if you are younger. I think I read some of the books when I was in my early teens. This is considered the first book in the series, but it was published 6th out of the 7 books, and on Goodreads it has a rating of 4.04, so right over 4.0. I remember really liking the book and the series. I just don't think I ever finished it. Maybe I'll get to that after I finish my other series I mentioned. And the next series I'm going to mention is pretty well known. They recently made movies off of them, and that is the Hunger Games series. And of course, the Hunger Games is the first in the series with Katniss. Of course, there's a lot of adventure and kind of this dystopia world that created, and I believe there is a book that just came out that's an accompaniment to these series, so you can read that along with this. There are, I think, 4 movies that they made out of them. I think they broke the last book of the series into 2 movies. So you can also watch those if you haven't already. I remember reading this in high school, actually the whole series in like a couple days, because I really enjoyed it. So if you haven't gotten to the Hunger Games yet, maybe now is a good time to read about them. And the next series I'm going to mention doesn't necessarily have an order to the books, but there is a general consensus of the order you're supposed to read them, but it is the Sherlock Holmes books, and the first one is considered A Study in Scarlet, which I have here. I have a set that has all 5, there's 7 books, but my set comes with 5 because, as you can see, there's 2 books in here, The Study of Scarlet and The Sign of Four, all combined into this one smaller one. I think there's one other that combines 2 of the books, so there's technically 5, but 7 novels of the series. And I've read some of the Sherlock Holmes books before, but maybe it's time to read the others. There's also many movies and TV shows that are really great that that cover Sherlock and Watson and all their adventures throughout, based off these books. Especially I think it's the BBC version with Benedict Cumberbatch is really great. I know that's really popular. So if you like those and you've seen those, maybe it's time to read the books that they're based off of. So the next series I'm going to mention is very well known. It has 7 books, 8 movies. If you don't know who I'm talking about yet, it's Harry Potter. I actually haven't read the whole series. I've probably read about half of them, but not in order. I've read 1, 2, 5, and half of 3. So almost in order, but not really. So maybe I can hopefully finish the series, but I've seen all the movies, and I think this is a great series. If you can also reread them. I know my sister's rereading them lately. There's plenty of movies, and there's a whole world that they've built for Harry Potter, and the Fantastic Beasts books and movies that you can also read. So if you really want to deep dive into a world this summer, you can definitely try the Wizarding World. Especially if you haven't read it yet, maybe this is a good time to go at it. But yeah, very known, very loved, so good adventure series to go tackle this summer. The next series I'm going to mention I actually haven't read, but I do own the first book of the series. I've heard it's very good, but it's called The Red Queen. There's 4 books in the series, and this first one has a rating right over 4.0 on Goodreads. From what I know of this series, it's about 2 kind of bloods, and the red and the silver are kind of like the upper people of the world, and they have superpowers and stuff. So there's lots of magic and adventures, and then the main person is a red blood, but she has powers that only the silver people have, and it's about dealing with that, a lot of adventures and stuff. So I haven't read this yet, but I've heard it's a really good series. 4 books, as I said, so maybe if I finish my other one, I'll start on this one. So the next series I'm going to mention has 3 books, but the author has many other series that are very similar, that are very popular also. So if you want to read more than 3 books in this series, you can go to his other series that are very good. But the one I'm going to mention, I've read the first book of the series, and it is Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, or The Sword of Summer. I read this last year sometime, and it was really enjoyable. It's also acceptable for like young teens and young adults, and he does a really great job of incorporating the gods of Asgard, or the gods of Norse mythology. You probably know his other series of Percy and the Olympians. They've made movies out of them, so if you really like those, you can start on this series. He has many other series too, featuring other gods. I think he's done like an Egyptian one. I'm not sure about that. But this was a really great book. I really enjoyed it. Eventually we'll get to the other 2 books of the series. Maybe not this summer, but this is a great one to read during the summer because it is called The Sword of Summer, even though I think it's actually set in the winter. But this is a great series to read, along with his other ones, if you want a great adventure book. So the next series I'm going to mention has 6 books, and I've read 5 of them many times. I think I picked up and read the first book of this series when I was a young teen. I've read and reread them many times throughout the years. The 6th book is supposed to come out in October, which is the last book. There's also accompanying books that are like prequels and books for in between, or little novellas in between the books. But it's a really great world, and the book is The Thief. The world that is built in this series is really fantastic and very detailed, and the characters are really great and developed in many ways. My favorite book is probably the second one, which is The Queen of Attolia, and this series is called The Queen Thieves. But The Thief is the first novel, and the last one that is coming out in October, I think is called Return of the Thief, if I'm correct. But I'm really excited for that to come out. It's been, from what I know about this series, it's been like over 20 years that she's been building this series, and there's many details thought out and connecting throughout the books. Before the last book comes out, I'm probably gonna reread the series. I've read it many times. This book's pretty beat up. I also own digital versions of each book, but this is probably one of my favorite series of all time. So I highly recommend it if you want to read a good series this summer and then have another book come out in the fall. Perfect. I have 2 more series, and these series are a little more adult and less kid-friendly. They cover kind of adult topics and such, but they're really great. And the first one I'm gonna mention is the Outlander series. This series is definitely if you want to tackle a bunch of reading this summer. There are, I think, 8 books and then accompanying ones throughout them. They are all very large books. This one alone is one of the smaller ones. It has over 600 pages. I think the one I'm currently on is over 1,000 pages. I'm on novel number 5. I'm actually listening to it on audio. But they are great books, but they're very detailed and very big, so they'll take you quite a bit of time to go through. They also are made into a TV show on Starz, I think, which is also really great. The author, Diana, does a lot of history and base her stories off of real events in history. So you also learn about things from the past during this, but it also has a lot of like romance, which kind of makes it more adult. You know what I mean? But they are great novels and a great TV show. So if you want to get into something that's going to take you a lot of time, suggest this series. So the last series I'm going to mention, I debated not adding it in. It is well known, but the books aren't finished. The books aren't finished, and there's no date of when they're going to be finished. So I was a little hesitant of adding it in. But it is a great series, and there's a TV show very popular made out of it, and that is Game of Thrones. And obviously this is well known from the HBO show. I watched all the seasons. Obviously a lot of people weren't happy with the ending, but it's supposed to be different in the books even though they're not finished. So but they are pretty hefty books, and so you can read the books that are out already, and they're accompanying novels for this world that he's built in Westeros, and it's very well loved. There's plenty to get through, even if you're okay if the series isn't technically finished yet. But this is the last series that I'm suggesting that you could read this summer, and then you have a TV show you can watch along with it. They range in size and number of books, reading levels. Some of them I've really enjoyed, some of them are well loved. So comment down below if you plan on reading one of these book series, or if you read some of them that are lesser known and enjoyed them. So let the other people know that they are great and they should try them out. Like this video if you plan on reading one of those. I can't wait to get started on my series that I chose to read this summer that I mentioned in this video earlier. And until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. And if you want to be someone, why not be you? Bye.